Hello everyone, very good morning, good afternoon and good evening and welcome back to my channel which is Certified Business Analysis Professional. My name is Varun Pawar and I hope you are finding my videos helpful for your CBAP, ECB and CCBA examination preparation. And so far so good, we have completed the 9 techniques and today we'll continue with the 10th technique. And let's move ahead then. So today we'll talk about the benchmarking and market analysis. Then we'll talk about the business capability. Then we'll talk about the business case. Well, benchmarking and market analysis. And I hope you are familiar with these words, benchmarking and market analysis. Well, benchmarking is something that you are comparing your product and the services with the best in class. And then you are, benchmarking against your competitors to make your product and service efficient. Market analysis, that you are going in a market, do a research to identify something that is happening good, and then you are trying to improve your product and services accordingly. So, benchmarking and market analysis are conducted to improve organizational operations, increase customer satisfaction, and increase value to stakeholders. Compare organizational practices against the best in class practices. It is to evaluate enterprise performance and ensure that the enterprise is operating efficiently. Market analysis involves researching customers in order to determine the products and services that they need or want, factors that influence their decision to purchase, and the competitors that exist in the market. Well, what are the elements? Elements are the benchmarking. Well, there would be two elements, that is benchmarking and market analysis, since we are talking about these two. So benchmarking, it is identifying enterprises that are leaders in the sector, including your competitors, conducting a survey of selected enterprises to understand their practices, using a request for information, also known as RFI, to gather information about capabilities, arranging a visit to best-in-class organizations, determining gaps between current and best practices, and developing a project proposal to implement best practices. Then we have the market analysis. Well, identify customers and understand their preferences. Identify opportunities that may increase value to stakeholders. Study trends in the market. Anticipate growth rate. Estimate potential profitability and derive conclusion. Define appropriate business strategies. Gather the market data. Use existing resources such as company records, research studies, and books and apply that information to the questions at hand. So, what are the pros and the cons? Well, the strengths are benchmarking provides organizations with new and different methods, ideas, and tools to improve organizational performance. An organization may use benchmarking to identify best practices by its competitors in order to meet or exceed its competition. Benchmarking identifies why similar companies are successful and what processes they use to become successful. And the weaknesses are benchmarking is a very time consuming and it need a lot of investment. Benchmarking cannot produce innovative solution because you are trying to compare the product and the services that is already in the market and used by your competitors. You are trying to study, do a research on those product and services which is already there in the market. So it remove the scope of innovation. Then we have business capability analysis. Business capability analysis provides a framework for scoping and planning by generating a shared understanding of outcomes, identifying alignment with strategy, and providing a scope and prioritization filter. Business capabilities describe the ability of an enterprise to act on or transform something that helps achieve a business goal or objective. It might be very complex for you to understand, but let me put it in easy words. So suppose there is an organization. Let's take example of Samsung, right? That's a big electronic brand which deals in various electronic products. It could be mobile, it could be washing machine, it could be smart TVs, it could be various gadgets, it could be home smart IoT devices, right? It could be, your wristwatches, your earbuds, your, headphones and all. So the Samsung deals in electronic products. So his capabilities is building electronic products. Let's assume that the capabilities of Samsung is one segment is the smart TVs, one segment is the smartphones, another segment could be washing machines, another could be microwaves, ovens, the air conditions, right? So these are the different capabilities. Now, it could be that a different product line, but altogether all are, using the electronic as a base. And now let's assume that Samsung, someone gave an idea, okay, the market for the clothes and apparel is very big. Let's invest in clothes and apparel. So do you think that clothes and apparels are matching with the capability line? Of course, it's not matching, right? So something that the matching is happening, the matching is happening, right? The organization would be happy to invest in that because the chances are high that that would become a successful product or service line or services, right? So the business capability analysis is telling the same thing, right? When you are doing strategy analysis and you want to understand the capability if some new product they are going to introduce, so they try to identify the capabilities of an organization, in which segments, in which sectors that organization is, having a market share, is giving a capabilities, is providing a solution, and then if a new product or services they are going to introduce, is that matching with the rest of the line or not? So that's all about the business capability analysis. So business capabilities describe the ability of an enterprise to act on and transform something that helps achieve a business goal or objective. Capabilities may be assessed for performance and associated risk to identify specific performance gaps and prioritize investments. As long as an enterprise continues to perform similar function, the capabilities required by the enterprise should remain constant, even if the method of execution for those capabilities undergoes significant change. So when we are saying method of execution for those capabilities undergoes a significant change, but the capabilities of an enterprise should remain constant. This means that the organization might have transformed their technology, right? So earlier they were, let's say earlier they were using on-premises the servers, the machines, right? But now they are moved to the cloud, right? They are on the Azure, they are on Google Cloud, right? So all the services has been moved to the cloud and the application as well. So the drastic transformation from the on-premises software and the servers, they have transformed and modernized, upgraded themselves and moved to the cloud, digitalization, right? So that's a drastic change. But the so far so good, the capabilities are same. They are not changing their product and the service lines, right? So that mean even if the significant change happens, but the enterprise should remain the capabilities for the enterprise remain constant. So let's talk about the elements. Its first is the capabilities. Capabilities are the abilities of an enterprise to perform something that helps achieve a business goal. Each capability is found only once on a capability map, even if it is processed by multiple business units. So when we are talking about the capabilities, so suppose there are different business units that are using the same capability. But when we talk about the capability map, that capability should be defined there at once. I will show you the table for that in next slide. Each capability is found only once on a capability map, even if it is processed by multiple business units. Using capabilities, the second element is using capabilities. Capabilities impact value through increasing or protecting revenue, reducing or preventing cost, improving services. So why we are using the capabilities is, of course, for these reasons. Either we are trying to increase or protecting the revenue, we are trying to reduce or preventing the cost, we are trying to improve the services, we are trying to achieve compliance or positioning the company for the future. Not all capabilities have the same level of value, and that you also know. Then the performance expectations. Capabilities can be assessed to identify explicit performance expectations. When a capability is targeted for improvement, a specific performance gap can be identified. Performance gap is the difference between the current performance and the desired performance given the business strategy. Then the next element is the risk model. Capabilities alone do not have risk. The risks are in the performance of the capability or in the lack of performance. So when we are creating a capability map, there are different capabilities for a single organization that they are offering, but these capabilities do not have a risk. When you are, giving a helicopter view, the in the different capabilities for an organization is already been set. This means these are strategically placed and all are at one point of time was giving the good profit or revenue. So if something happens wrong, we cannot say or blame that the specific capabilities is giving a risk, because strategically those capabilities is being placed, right? So where the risk then comes from? Well, it comes from the way that capability is performing, the elements of that capabilities, which might not be working as per expectation, right? Or the resources that is being utilized, the technology, the other factors that is not working correctly, right? So that's why it said capabilities alone do not have risk. The risks are in the performance of the capability or on the lack of performance. It could be a business risk, it could be a technology risk, it could be organizational structure, that they need upgradation. They are using some legacy or obsolete way of, handling the product and the services, and the market risk, right? Strategic planning. Business capabilities for the current state and future state of an enterprise can be used to determine where that enterprise needs to go in order to accomplish its strategy. A business capability assessment can produce a set of recommendation or proposals for solution. That's how we do the capability analysis, right? This information forms the basis of a product roadmap and serves as a guide for release planning as well. Then we have capability maps. Capability maps provide a graphical view of elements, or I would say the helicopter view of elements involved in business capability analysis. There is no set standard for notation of capability maps. So this is one of the capability map that has been described in Babok. So you can see the organizational analysis, project analysis, professional development. These are different, I would say, the matrices used here, or dimension, I would say. And in each dimension, we have capability analysis, root cause analysis, process. So a similar matrix or dimension, um, this table might come in an examination. So you have to understand. So what it is trying to tell you. So here the business value, it's saying high, medium, and low. For the organization analysis in capability analysis for these different segment, right? One is a business value, customer value, performance gap, and risk. So what is high and what is low, what is medium, that's providing some of the factors for the product and services for a successful venture, or so let's say capability analysis. The business value of this capability analysis is very high, right? But and the customer value for this capability analysis is very low. Performance gap is identified is very high, and the risk is medium. So it's we are doing organization analysis in this. These are the factors. We are doing root cause analysis. There it says the business value root cause analysis were identified low, customer value identified high, and the performance gap is medium, and the risk is very low. Similarly, when you go in project analysis, so we are doing the project analysis. In this, there are these factors comes like requirement elicitation. We are doing requirements management, requirement communication, user acceptance testing, and usability testing. Requirement elicitation, it's the business value for doing this is very high, customer value is medium, performance gap is very high, and risk is very low. Requirement management, it's medium, customer value it's high, and the performance gap is low, and risk is high. So these are not something that is already been defined. These are after doing the analysis we have identified like these factors, how these factors is defined for an organization. So they have done some analysis and identify like on this factor where the organization is standing for requirement elicitation, for requirement management, for requirement communication, user acceptance testing, and usability testing, right? So a similar I would say the table would come in an examination where they might ask to identify the capabilities and the risk and the performance gaps. So you might you know understand this and then would able to answer those questions there. Now, what are the pros and cons? The strengths are it provides a shared articulation of outcomes, strategy, and performance, which helps create very focused and aligned initiative. So please keep in mind that when we are doing the capability analysis, you view a entire organization and their capabilities all together at one place, right? You don't study those individually or separately, or somebody don't know about, if we're talking about the executive level, and some of the executive don't know about that what capability you are having there. So it's like a complete collaboration with all the uh, executive level bodies who can give their understanding of the capabilities they are handling, and then you consolidate all those capabilities in a single page or in a capability map, right? So it provides a shared articulation of outcomes strategy, and these is strategical, right, capabilities. Performance, which help create a very focused and aligned initiative, helps align business initiative across multiple aspects of the organization. It's useful when assessing the capability of an organization to offer new products and services. The cons are when created unilaterally or in a vacuum, it fails to deliver on the goals of alignment and shared understanding. As I said, like you have to collaborate with all these strategically with all the capabilities to bring them on a single page or on a single capability map. If you try to create them unilaterally or alone or without any discussion with executives, uh, and you somehow create it, at the end the goal will not be achieved and it will fail, right? Requires a broad cross-functional collaboration defining the capability model and the value framework. Then we have the business case, and I hope you heard this keyword business case very frequently when you are in a project. So business case is a kind of a justification, right, for any project that any organization is pursuing or about to pursue. So they have to provide a justification very strong justification and just in terms of a business case, because business case tells about this full story, that what this project is going to achieve, what are the assumptions, what are the constraints, what are the what are the options or design options are there, alternatives. So all sort of things the business case would provide you. So business case provides a justification for a course of action based on the benefits to be realized by using the proposed solution, as compared to the cost, efforts, and other consideration to acquire and live with that solution. A business case is used to define the needs, determine the desired outcomes, assess constraints, assumptions, and the risk, and recommend a solution. Well, now you find these lines here, and of course these lines are then part of the elements. Then let's talk about the elements. Need assessment. Well, something like you need to assess. There is a need arises. Well, in order to move ahead with that need, you have to do the assessment of that need, right? So that comes into the need assessment. Then desired outcome. Well, if you are going to pursue something, right, you should be very sure of that what would be the desired outcome at the end. From like this is as is services, this is to be services, you have done the gap analysis, and then you have performed something to achieve that to be services. So desired outcome is to be services, or to be flow, or to be state, right? So you should know about the desired outcome. Then assess alternatives, right? In order to achieve that desired outcomes, what are other alternative ways available? You also mention all those things there. Then in order to do the assessment of alternatives, you talk about the scope, the feasibility of each alternative, the assumption and risk and constraints associated with each alternative, financial analysis and the value assessment. In financial analysis and value assessment, it talks about like how much investment that would cost, how much time that will take doing return on investment, what potential value that that alternative will going to give. So all sort of financial analysis and value assessment is being done while doing the assessment of the alternatives. Then the recommended solution. Well, in a business case, the author also mentioned the recommended solution. Like he has studied all the alternatives and he has concluded at the end that this is the best possible option that we can pursue, right? So that's a recommended solution. What are the pros? Well, it provides an amalgamation of the complex facts, issues, and analysis required to make decision regarding the change. It provides a detailed financial analysis of cost and the benefits, provides guidance for oncoming decision making throughout the initiative, and the cons are it may be subject to the biases of an author. So if you are an author, you are doing this business, you are writing this business case, obviously you will hide some of the facts that may goes negative to the business case. Rather you will focus more on the pros and benefit side or positive sides of pursuing that initiative, right? So it's upon author biases. Frequently not updated once funding for the initiative is secured. Once the funding, the business case has been passed, the sponsor has sponsored the project, the funding has been secured, then it's very rare that people goes back to the business case to do the modification, right? It contains the assumptions regarding cost and benefits that may prove invalid upon further investigation. As I said, it's the biases of an author that he might hide some of the facts, but once the initiative is secured with funding and the execution or the kickoff has started, in mid of in somewhere in the mid, you might identify and realize that the assumptions and the constraints that uh, assumed during the business case might be invalid, right? So that's it from today's session. Just comment me how you are doing with your preparation. If you need help in understanding or you need a more detailed explanation of any topic, please ping me or leave a comment. I'll definitely try to cover that topic in detail. We'll connect in our next session. Till then, take care and goodbye.